Welcome to a very special episode of the Oddcast. I'm Scott. This is my co-host, Jason. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, mate. Welcome, guys. We've got a very special episode for you today. And hands up, I'm a little in the dark.
He is. So we're going to jump straight into it. We've got a lot of information. It is grim. Stick with us. I hope you find it interesting. So for those that have followed our Facebook page and our TikTok page, hopefully you've picked up on the fact that we are going to be investigating the Jack the Ripper murders 137 years ago.
Yeah. Now, what really interested me, Scott, was there weren't that many.
No.
I was very surprised. I'm really not that up to date with history. You're really on it, so you're going to be really informative today. But I don't really know what's going on. So when I saw the number, I was like, wow, that's not many at all.
Yeah. So, well, that's my first question is just let us and me know, what is it that you know about Jack the Ripper?
I mean, very, very little. I know that he was a murderer, a serial killer down in London. It wasn't particularly that he killed a lot of people. It was the way that he did it and the way he got away with it, really, that made him so infamous.
Yep, that's pretty much the basis of this whole thing. He was very gruesome and it is very violent. So those with a weak constitution, this might not be the episode for you. But there is a love for serial killers and stuff around the world with the amount of Netflix stuff and whatnot that we have. So hopefully there's a few that will find this interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to it, mate. I'm really excited.
I have a lot of notes, so hopefully it serves us well.
Yeah, well, let's go. Tell me about him.
Let's do it. Right, so it happened in 1888, as I said, 137 years ago. You're right that it happened in London. However, it happened in a particular place in London called Whitechapel.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, before we get into the actual murders and the victims, etc., it's important to understand what was happening in London and what was happening in Whitechapel, because there were two very different things. Mm-hmm. So London was actually, central London was a hub of wealth and ingenuity and high society. In general, London was almost like the centre of the world at that point.
Yeah.
However, Whitechapel, which was in the east end of London, was the complete opposite. It was like the underbelly of London. So the best way to describe it, and the best way that I saw described it when researching, was it was a slum.
Okay.
Now, the area was absolutely chocker full of crime. It was overpopulated, and it was full of people that didn't have any money. I'm talking real poverty, people that couldn't afford to eat or didn't have any homes. It was also full of a lot of immigrants at the time. So you can imagine the kind of clientele that would sort of roam the streets, etc. Criminal activity in itself was not limited to, but including a lot of acts of violence: thieving, pickpocketing, murder, as we will go into, prostitution. The police at the time it was so bad, so rife, that they couldn't keep on top of everything. So they would have to let certain things slide.
So they kind of just left that area to itself, and it got worse and worse and worse, or?
Yeah, so there was a police presence, but unfortunately, there was also evidence that the police were also, on the take as well. So they were often criminals themselves until things got really bad, as we will see, for example, with inspectors like Frank Aberline, who was one of the main ones for Jack the Ripper. He was not on the take. He was quite well to do, very good at his job, and was sent down he was part of Scotland Yard. Now, within that sort of climate, it was worse for women. Equality didn't exist at that point. They were often referred to in Whitechapel as unfortunates.
Oh, wow.
So that, yeah, I mean, that's pretty brutal in its own self, isn't it? But they would use means to survive, such as prostitution.
Yeah.
So, for example, today, a lot of, maybe not all, but a lot of prostitutes that do still exist choose to do that.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you could even argue things like OnlyFans and stuff is sex exploitation,
It's
right?
a form of prostitution, absolutely.
Absolutely. But it's a choice. For these women, especially the ones that we're going to talk about tonight, it wasn't a choice. It was their only way of surviving. And these acts of prostitution were often happening in really filthy conditions. They would get infections and diseases, and that would lead to them seeking medical attention from people that were unqualified. And they would have surgeries and stuff that were not performed correctly by people like butchers and barbers. Anyone with a knife, effectively, could have has done something like that, and that would also cause death as well. So let's delve into the crux of it. So I want you to imagine in your mind's eye a very dingy, gaslit, cobbled stone street, dark alleys, smoke-filled pubs all around you. No CCTV, nothing like that. Homes weren't double locked or, no security systems, nothing. So, Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
The Whitechapel murders. We're going to look at the 5 canonical murders. There are other murders that some people say may be attributed to Jack the Ripper, but these 5 are seen as the 5, nailed on murders.
Fair enough.
Let's look at victim 1. And it's important to remember as well, let me just point this out, that these 5 victims happened over a 9-month span, which is not a lot of time, really. 9 months.
No, was he being investigated? Like after the first one, was there an investigation, or was it just or will you get to that? Or it was just another murder in that lowly place, and it was kind of brushed under the rug?
From the get-go, people knew that these murders were very different to other murders. And as you pointed out at the beginning, one thing is it might not be the amount, it's the way that they were murdered.
Okay.
Now I'm going to need my water because I've got a lot of talking.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, first victim. She died on August the 31st, 1888. Her name was Mary Ann Nichols.
Yep, and you know what? I have heard that name.
Yes. You may have heard of all of these names because, Ripper lore is in films and TV shows, and it's still, talked about today in different walks of life in that way, online, because it's become almost mythological.
Yeah.
So she was actually known as Polly. And she was originally married to a printer's machinist, so someone with a reputable job. 5 children as well.
Okay.
However, her husband had an affair, and Mary's father actually accused the husband of abandoning Mary. So in order for Mary to survive, she turned to prostitution to eat and
provide,
live, roof over her head. Yeah. It's also not a stretch to say that Mary was reliant upon alcohol. Now, alcohol, the sort of alcohol they were drinking, would make them feel fuller if they weren't eating.
Okay.
But also, think of the psychological, having to go out, sleep with these guys that they didn't know them, often violent, in terrible conditions. Alcohol would, I would imagine, act as a bit of a numbing.
Yeah, it makes it easier to deal with, doesn't it? Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, At around 11 p.m. on the 30th of August, 1888, she was seen walking along Whitechapel Road, entering the Frying Pan pub.
The Frying Pan pub.
The Frying Pan pub. Great name for pub. Sometime after midnight, on the 31st, she left the pub and returned to her shared lodging. But the housekeeper asked for the 4p needed for her bed. Nichols didn't have it. Yeah, 4p. Ridiculous, right? To us now, perhaps. She didn't have it. And she was refused lodging until she did. So, of course, what did she do? Nichols hits the streets. Yeah. She was last seen alive at around 2:30 a.m. by a friend who tried to help her back to the lodgings. And Nichols reportedly said to that friend, "I've had my lodging money 3 times today, but I've spent it."
On alcohol.
Alcohol, yes. Vicious circle.
Yeah.
1 hour later, and a carman, so basically a delivery driver. So we're at about 3:30 now in the morning. He found what he thought was a piece of tarpaulin in a place called Bucks Row in Whitechapel. Upon closer inspection, he realises that it is a woman lying on her back, her eyes open, and her skirt raised up.
Mm-hmm.
Police, he calls the police, and they come and shout, "There's a woman with her throat cut. Run at once for Dr. Llewellyn," who was the police medical examiner.
Okay.
He comes along. There's no blood trails where she's found, and there's no wheel marks around either. So she looks kind of random in where she is. And Dr. Llewellyn pronounces her dead, and he then later performs the post-mortem. This is her injuries. Her face has been bruised where she's been hit. Her throat has been cut from left to right twice. Mm-hmm. Both so deep that they reached the spinal column.
No.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's brutal. That's just brutal as it is. But her vagina was also stabbed twice. Her abdomen was completely mutilated to the point where her bowels were protruding out of the wound. And Dr. Llewellyn concluded that it was all inflicted with the same knife, approximately 6 to 8 inches long. No organs were missing either, or cut into. Dr. Llewellyn believed that the murderer possessed some sort of medical or anatomical knowledge.
So as not cut into any of the organs?
Yes, it was brutal but surgical.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty grim to start off.
Do they know, or did they know whether it was done while she was alive, or was it all?
But they do. So as with every single victim, other than the throat cuts, so the 2 throat cuts, that's what killed her.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it was done after she died.
Oh, that's good to know. I know it's not, it's better than Abby.
It's a small mercy. Yeah. So that's victim 1.
Okay.
People are obviously panicking because this is something they've not really seen.
So Scott,
the police are.
Is that where she was killed then? Because there's no blood trails anywhere, like you said. She was killed right there and nobody saw anything.
They don't know. There are theories that she was killed in a carriage, hence why they looked for wheel marks.
Oh,
and all the blood sort of. Yep. Because then all the blood would be in the carriage itself, and then she's dumped out. Because prostitutes would flag down these horse and carts, like horse and cabs.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So that's one particular theory. Another is that she or all of these were not necessarily killed where they were, and they were sort of dragged there or put there. But the real thing is nobody knows.
Yeah.
Because forensic science and stuff like that, stuff that we rely on now for serial killers and the like, it didn't exist back then. They didn't have fingerprints. They didn't have, they couldn't look up anything to do with blood and all
No,
of
you
that.
kind
It
of
was
take what you see, don't you? What you see is
yeah,
the evidence. There is none of this other
that
stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So it's proper. What's the word I'm looking for? Investigation with your eyes, effectively.
Okay.
As you say, what you see, that's all we've got to work with.
Yep.
So the police they're looking to who did this brutal murder. Effectively, they know it's brutal. They need to find out who it was. Now, I'm not going to go into anybody that has anyone that they thought, because I'm going to do that at the end. So I'm going to go through all the victims, and then we'll talk about the people after.
Okay.
Victim 2, Annie Chapman. She was born into a family whose father was in the military. She was married to John Chapman, who was actually a relative of her mother. I mean, that's weird for us nowadays anyway.
Eyebrow raising.
Yeah. She had 3 children, but this is where it gets a little sad for Annie Chapman, because one of her children was severely physically handicapped, so bad that he was sent to an institution because she couldn't cope. So she's lost one child there, and the other one, or one of the others, died very early on from meningitis. So she's lost 2 of her children. This is what they think caused Annie Chapman to start drinking heavily. Understandably, we know that she was arrested for public intoxication multiple times. There are records to show that. In 1884, she actually separated from her husband, who then died. The husband died 2 years later. So the money that he was giving her, because she had another child still, maintenance, effectively, early maintenance, stops because he dies of edema 2 years after, which is in 1886. So she then can only get money from earning it. Now, she had other jobs like selling flowers and crocheting, but when things got really tight, she got desperate, and she is what they call a casual prostitute. So she'd only do it, not all the time, but when she needed to.
The same,
much like
same story.
Victim 1. Yes. So the 7th of September in 1888, Annie leaves her lodgings at 1:30 in the morning to go and earn. She was seen at 5:30 in the morning talking to a man, possibly the murderer. At 6 a.m, so about half hour later, her body is discovered. Her dress is raised up, similar to the first victim, and shows her injuries. Here are her injuries. Her throat was cut deeply, twice again, to the point where her windpipe is severed in 2.
So he's gone pretty much same again.
Yep. Same cut from left to right as well. Her abdomen is sliced open. Her organs, including her bladder and uterus, have been removed. There's a leather apron that's found nearby. That's an interesting thing to keep an eye out. And remember that. The knife that was used, they're saying that it was all medically removed. So it wasn't just hack and slash. Again, it was surgical. Now, that leather apron that was found at the scene, it led to the police looking at people who use leather aprons as suspects. So people like bootmakers, barbers, butchers, anyone like that. There was one guy called John Pizer, who was actually known as Leather Apron, interestingly, who was a Jewish bootmaker. But one thing that was certain is that these 2 murders were connected. They were done by the same person, because there's too many similarities.
Mm-hmm. So did they have some, or were they still just questioning multiple?
Still questioning multiple people. They didn't have any major leads. They were being very generalised with what they were doing.
And sorry to interrupt you again. Was
No.
there specifically that had been put on this yet, or is that still to come?
So by this point, Abilene has been brought over from Scotland Yard. So it has been punted up a bit because of the brutality of the murders.
Okay.
But it gets worse very, very quickly.
Right. Okay. Just remind me how long between 1 and 2?
So let me just refer back. So number 1 was August. And number 2 is September.
Okay.
A
So
week.
only
End of August. I mean, yeah.
He only waited a week
So
to
this is
go.
all happening very, very quickly. Really, I think, in my opinion, I think it's quickly.
Yeah,
Not that I've had much to do with serial killers, but the reason it gets worse is because the Central News Agency in London, they receive a letter which they later forward on to Scotland Yard. And we'll have a little picture up on the screen as I read this. This is called the Dear Boss letter. Now, it's written in red ink and spelling and punctuation mistakes all the way throughout, and it mocks the investigation. This is what it reads. Remember, these could be words of the serial killer himself. Dear boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about leather apron gave me real fits. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue, and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Ha ha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to police officers, just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back until I do a bit more work. Then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it. No luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now. Ha ha.
This guy
Chilling.
insane.
Yes. So this is the first use of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, did he name himself that, or I assume people in the streets came up with that, and he might have heard it and taken it on.
It wasn't used at all until this letter. He named himself.
He named himself. Wow.
Yeah. Now, caution to the wind, because a lot of people think that this could be a hoax. The theory was that the media wanted to try and sensationalise the murders that had already happened. But I'm not convinced that it was a hoax, and you'll see why.
Okay.
Victim 3. Elizabeth Stride. Married, but no children, and she separated in 1881. She earned money from sewing and house cleaning, as well as casual prostitution. She also had alcohol issues, and she was arrested multiple times for being drunk and disorderly. Eyewitness accounts suggest that Stride was with multiple clients on the evening of the 29th of September and early morning 30th of September. So it's, 2-3 weeks after. At 1 a.m., roughly, Stride's body was found in a work yard. A single knife wound to her neck had killed her, but she was still warm when she was discovered. Now, unlike the first two, no mutilations at all.
Oh, he was interrupted.
Bingo, because an hour later, well, within an hour, actually, if I remember rightly, when doing my research, it was like 45 minutes later, victim 4.
Ah, so he got mad and he had to go out straight away and do another one.
Yes, he was not satiated, shall we say. So victim 4 is Catherine Eddowes. She wasn't married, but had 2 partners on and off, 3 children, was again a heavy drinker, and again casual prostitution, mainly for rent, for her lodgings. On the 29th, Eddowes was arrested for being drunk, and she was left in the cell to sober up. She was released at 1 a.m. on the 30th by the police.
When they went to investigate.
Yep. And so literally, as victim 3, Elizabeth Stride, is being murdered, Catherine Eddowes is released from the prison. 45 minutes later, she's dead. This is what the police found. Her throat was cut. Her abdomen was sliced open. Her intestines had been pulled out and laid over her right shoulder. The right ear had been cut off. Remember what he said in the letter? Now, this is what makes me think it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah,
I think he's probably true to his word and did what he said. There were facial cuts through her eyelids. Her nose had been cut off. Her kidney had been removed. Now, the belief is that Elizabeth Stride wasn't mutilated because he was interrupted. As we said, he wasn't satiated. He needed another victim. And unfortunately, Eddowes was that second victim. So that's a double event on that night.
Wow, he went to town on the second one, didn't he?
He certainly did. Here's a bit more information. There was a torn piece of Eddowes' apron found around an hour later, covered in blood and fecal matter. It was found below some chalk writing on a wall down an alley, which reads, "The Jews," spelt Jewes, are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. Now, some say that Jack wrote this himself. There are also links to Masonic stuff to do with the way that Jews was spelt. I haven't gone into that because I don't understand it myself. So if any of our viewers wish to look into that, be my guest. It could also have just been a bit of anti-Semitic graffiti, which was rife around Whitechapel. Remember I said there was a lot of immigrants, etc.?
Yep.
So it could have just been coincidence.
It seems pretty clear at the moment, though, that Jack isn't very well educated and yet is quite a clever man.
Yeah, I mean, we know from if let's assume that the Dear Boss letter is real, not a hoax. We know that he's not well written because of all the mistakes, etc. If that graffiti's him, we know he can't spell, etc. And yet he can perform surgical like,
which means he must have either read a lot or practiced a lot. He's got to have done one of those things.
Maybe learned off of someone. Nowadays, it's in trades, isn't it?
Like an apprenticeship.
Apprentice. Yes. Yeah. Right. Or he could have been like an apprentice to a surgeon or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
There's a second letter now. And this is called
after the fourth victim.
Yes. Right, so we've had this double event, and we now get a second letter, which is referred to as the From Hell letter.
Wow, okay.
Now, this letter is received on the 15th of October, so a couple of weeks after that double event. It's addressed to a guy called George Lusk. Now, George Lusk was a local who was the chairman of the Whitechapel Vigilante Committee. Now, they were a group intending to make the streets of Whitechapel safe because they didn't feel that the police were able to do it. So all this mania that was caused by these killings brought out this group of people that would go out at night and try to be a presence and get involved in things if they needed to be. With this letter was also a package, a small package that contained half of a human kidney.
The kidney that had been removed from his fourth victim.
Potentially. I think that at the very least, that's what the author of this letter was aiming for, but we don't know. Yep. We generally don't know. This is what it reads. From hell. Mr. Lusk, sir, I send you half the kidney I took from one woman, preserved it for you. The other I fried and ate. It was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch Me When You Can, Mr. Lusk. Now, I struggle to read that because I've written it down in the way that he wrote. So things like where I said preserved, it's preserved. So he you know.
So it's the same person.
I think so. Look, I'm not a professional, but I think it shows signs of the same illiteracy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what about the does it look the same? I mean, are you looking at actual?
So it'll be up on the screen for people right now. It's hard to know.
Okay.
However,
because the pictures are so bad, or
yeah, I think. I mean, the pictures weren't great. I also think that he didn't take care over what he was doing. These are letters. If it is him, these are letters that are written in, I guess, in a state of mania himself.
Yeah,
He has to be to do this sort of thing. So it's difficult to know.
Yep. Okay.
Now, we have to allow for the possibility that this letter could be a hoax. Again, the media trying to rile up a bit more mania to sell more newspapers.
Yep.
And of course, Lusk himself, who was someone of interest to the police at the time. Was it him trying to gain more following for this?
Yeah.
militia?
Okay. Yeah. No, I get what you mean there. Yeah.
On to the fifth and final victim, Mary Jane Kelly. Now, I have to be honest with you, when I was researching this, I had to do this, a lot of it in bits, but I had to take a full day just to cope with what I was seeing and reading, because I just think this was awful. They're all awful, but this was exceptionally brutal. So not a lot is really known about Mary Jane Kelly, other than she was 24, 25, of Irish kind of descent. She was a career prostitute. So this is what she did. Again, drank heavily. On the 9th of November, 1888, Mary Jane Kelly's body was discovered inside her lodging. So think about this for a minute. All four are outside on streets, etc.
Mm-hmm.
This was inside her own lodging, her own rental place. That morning, her landlord comes round looking for rent. The rent man knocks on the door, nothing. Mary Jane Kelly has a window that she broke herself on a corner. And when she has clients, etc., that's where she gets them to hang their coat. And there's a curtain as well, so she's still got the privacy. The landlord knocks, there's no answer, so he goes round, peeks through this hole in the window, pulls back the curtain, and he sees this picture that you're seeing now. This is the picture I showed you. It's believed that she died between 3 to 9 hours before the discovery of her body. Now, this is the only Ripper crime scene to actually be photographed. And I'd read that this was the first photograph that Police London had ever used for a crime scene. So historic in 2 ways there.
That is awful.
Yeah, it's grim. Her body is horrifically mutilated. And I'm now going to read what he'd done to her. Her heart, her kidneys, and her uterus were all removed, and they were placed in different areas of the room. Her ears were cut off. Her nose was cut off. Her lips were removed. Her breasts were cut off in a circle-like fashion. Her neck was cut so deep, right down to the vertebrae in her back. Her body was so extensively eviscerated, it was more damage than any other Ripper victim. We think he went to town on his 4th victim because he got interrupted. This was a whole nother level. They were all evil, but this was something you can't even comprehend.
It seems he had time as well in her house. He knew he wasn't going to be interrupted, and he did as much as he could.
Yes, absolutely. Now, because she was a career prostitute, having clients in her house was the norm for her.
Yep.
So she wouldn't have known that this was going to happen. She would have welcomed him in, probably even poured him a drink.
Yep.
And then that's the last thing that she does, you know? And for a 24, 25-year-old young girl, it's horrifying.
It's devastating, isn't it?
It is. But then what? Well, the Ripper killings, they stop as suddenly as they started. That's it. There are theories as to why they just stop. So some say that this final killing had satiated himself so much that he just went, right, I'm done. Some say that he went overboard and committed suicide. Some say that he was arrested for another crime. Some say that he left England. Now, New York did have a few Ripper-style killings. Again, nothing's ever been proved, but there's a small link there. And some say that perhaps he was cool, but it was hushed up because of who he was.
Oh, interesting.
This is where we're going to get into the main suspects. Now, it's important to know that up to now, this is the list is ridiculous. There's over 100 suspects.
Okay.
This is a case that still gets looked at now, and you'll see how we come to sort of modern times with what they think they found. Yeah. What I've done is I've gone for a couple that I think are the most kind of interesting, maybe most likely. A lot of people that watch this, if they've done their own kind of research or any new people that have done the same, they may disagree with me, and that's totally fine. They may have their own ones. Honestly, this can go down so many different streets. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
So let's go with one of the Inspector Aberline's favourite candidates, George Chapman.
Okay.
So he was Polish. He was an apprentice to a surgeon in Poland.
Okay.
He served as a nurse in Poland until he left and come to London in 1887. He opened a barber shop in the East End of London, so in Whitechapel, and was only there from 1887 to 1889.
Perfect candidate.
He's known to have mistresses. His first wife confirmed that Chapman used to go out at night for hours, not knowing what he was doing.
Okay.
So you can clearly see Chapman fits the kind of profile He was a violent misogynist, had medical knowledge, access to knives. Don't forget, barbers were not just hair; they were shave, etc. And he lived in the area. But Chapman was later on charged and hung for other killings via poisoning.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't a knife man.
Exactly. It's very rare for a killer to change that that modus operandi.
Okay.
They kind of stick to what they do, which means if he was the Ripper killer, he wouldn't have gone on to poisoning. It's very, very unlikely, and that he would have carried on with his knife.
Okay.
There's also serious doubt over Chapman's ability to speak English. Now, we know that the Ripper lured these women in by being able to hold a conversation with them enough to get them to come close to himself, whether that was in a carriage or even in going in and arranging to be a client, etc. His residence was also not really in the vicinity of the murders. Now, Whitechapel is fairly big. He was in the east end of London, but he wasn't right in the middle of the murder sites. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So maybe not the most convenient. Also, having come from Poland only a year before the Ripper killing started, his knowledge of the area would not have been very good. The Ripper's knowledge of Whitechapel had to be good to evade the police so quickly.
Yeah, 100%. He knew how to get away with it. He knew where to put the bodies, knew how to get away from the scene quickly.
Exactly. I mean, just with the one he got interrupted with, he'd only just started and he was gone before they got to her.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't fit. It does in some ways. His profile fits.
He fits the bill, yes, but the rest doesn't. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one. How about a bit of royalty? Prince Albert Victor, the Queen Victoria's grandson.
Okay.
So there's a thing at this point in Victorian England called slumming. And it was where people that were well-to-do, high up in society, including royalty, would go into areas like Whitechapel, seek out prostitutions, go into bars, and slum it.
Yeah.
Now, he died in 1892 from pneumonia. Is that because he was ill? And that's why the murder stopped? There's just a little bit of, coincidence with the time. He was known for that slumming. So we know that he did know the area. He did know Whitechapel. He was known as a big tipper to the horse and, the carriage cab drivers at the time.
Did he have any knowledge?
This down.
Any knowledge
exactly.
with a knife?
This is the issue. I don't think there is. There's no evidence that there is. He was a military man, but does that make him able to take out be surgical like with that sort of stuff? No. I think this one is very weak, but I think it's interesting. That's why I picked it. Here's the other thing that I think this makes it even weaker, is that there are official documents that place Prince Albert in Scotland during a couple of the Ripper murders.
Okay, yeah, get rid of him. It's an interesting throw-in, but...
yeah, it's a conspiracy throw-in, isn't it, really?
He didn't do it.
He does come back up, though, and we'll get to that soon.
Okay.
The next one is Jacob Eisenschmidt.
Oh.
Yeah, what a name, right? I'm sure I butchered that, if you pardon the pun.
Wow.
I know, I'm really sorry. So he was actually a butcher
for today.
That's it, yeah. He was an actual butcher in Whitechapel. He was a Swiss butcher who suffered from severe depression and other psychiatric disorders.
Okay.
Always carried knives, even if he wasn't in the butcher shop.
Okay.
He is described as being violently insane.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yes. However, again, this is a case of the guy fits, but the rest doesn't, because during the double event of Eddowes and Stride, he's hospitalised, and we have records saying he was in a mental institution.
Some shit didn't do it.
So, yeah, couldn't have done at least two of them. And if they are all connected, as we believe, it wasn't him.
No, they're definitely connected.
I like this next one. I would say this is my favourite one.
Wait,
however, it's
favourite,
unlikely.
as in this is the one that you think did it, not your favourite one.
Yeah, no, I haven't got a favourite killer, folks.
No.
I'm sorry to disappoint. No, I just think that there's more to this than sort of meets the eye. But it doesn't make the most sense.
Okay.
So this guy's William Gull. He is Queen Victoria's physician.
Okay.
Now, Prince Albert is a patient of his. He dies in 1890, which would mean that the murders could stop because he died.
Mm-hmm.
There are theories. So, for example, one is that there was a local psychic, which we could laugh about now, but back in the day, this is the sort of thing that some of the police would use, who literally took the police on like a complete journey, and it all went towards William Gull. Another theory is that where Albert had been slumming in Whitechapel, these women were blackmailing him, and Gull decided to silence these women, and this is why they were killed.
Blackmailing him with what?
Well, if these women were so desperate for money, as we know they were, what they're saying is that Albert got them pregnant through his slumming.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then we can go to the Queen.
Quiet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, again, that puts another spin back onto Albert, doesn't it? I still don't think it was him. I think there's something to do with William Gull. I'm just not 100% sure that there's any real hard evidence for it. It doesn't make the most sense. However, he had a lot of medical knowledge. We know that he was mentally unwell because he just had a stroke.
Okay.
He had access to a cab with a royal mark. Now, the reason that's important is because police would not stop a cab with the royal mark on it. He could get around, do what he wanted, go where he wanted, and no one would even pull over to find blood in his cab.
Yeah, that's a big advantage for him if it was him.
It is. It is pure conspiracy, but I just think there's something there.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he can easily get around. He's got the knowledge. He doesn't have an alibi. There's nowhere else that he's been listed to be. A lot of the others have got, they were away in Scotland. They were hospitalised. There's this guy. Yeah, it could be something there.
Is there a cover-up as well, Is this why we don't know who he was? Because he was... I mean, can you imagine a
royal cover-up? Yeah.
It'd be awful. Even if it wasn't Prince Albert, even if it was just Queen Victoria's personal physician, that's bad enough. So, yeah, that's where my mind kind of goes. Okay. But there is a more modern approach.
Go on.
So this guy is the last guy that we'll talk about. His name is Aaron Kamiński.
Oh, I've heard of him.
He's a Polish Jew. He's employed as an orderly in a hospital. And he arrived in England in 1881. There's potential evidence that he worked as a barber. Again, knives. We know that he lived and potentially relied upon his brother and sister, who had two different lodgings, and he was he listed their address. On one time he was interviewed, another on another time. So we know that he was kind of in between.
Mm-hmm.
He lived bang in the middle of the murder sites.
Right.
Between these two people. He's also described as a paranoid schizophrenic who regularly committed self-abuse.
Okay.
We know from an interview that he threatened his sister with a knife. We also know that in 1891, so not long after these Ripper killings stop, that he is committed to Colney Hatch Lunatic Asylum.
Oh, okay.
So he has the geography, the timeline, the psychology, everything kind of fits. Let me build upon it. In 2014, so very recent, a shawl that's believed to have belonged to Catherine Eddowes and taken from the murder scene by a police officer who gave it to his wife, it was tested for DNA.
In 2014?
In 2014, yes. Apparently there are some specific stains that remained on the shawl, and they were able to test against DNA from descendants of Kaminsky. The issue with this is that there's no proof that this shawl belonged to Eddowes in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
When Eddowes has an inventory made at the time, it's all written down what was on her clothing, possessions, etc. There's no shawl. Nothing. It's not mentioned at all. Also, the DNA evidence wasn't conclusive. It wasn't absolutely bang on. It's a jump.
It sounds like a bit of a jump.
Yes.
After 100 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people think, this splits the whole sort of Ripper community of researchers, etc. That's half of them say, yes, this is damning evidence, and half say it's absolute bollocks.
Sounds like a bit of a stretch to me.
It does me too. I don't really think that if you can't, even with the DNA evidence, they're saying that it's not completely conclusive. That wouldn't be enough to convict someone nowadays, would it?
No, absolutely not. No.
Excuse me one moment.
That's all sounding like a bit of a stretch, a bit of a, we want this to be true.
Yeah, Hail Mary, hopeful.
Yes.
What do you think? From what all the evidence that I've, everything that happened, of the people that I've sort of presented to you, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that people don't just stop. Like you can't, in anything in life, it's difficult to just say, well, I'm just not going to do that anymore. There is no way that Jack the Ripper said to himself, "Oh, that last killing was enough.
Okay.
I'm done." So he was either arrested for something else, like you've said, or he died, or he had to return home. So it's an uneducated. No, not uneducated, because we said he might be well read, but he can't speak English well. We know that.
He can't.
We can't
write it.
Write English well.
Yeah.
He didn't just stop and say, "I've had enough." That's all I know.
Okay.
He either died or left and went back to wherever he came from.
Would it change your mind if I said to you that Kaminsky went to America shortly after?
And that's where this whole New York Ripper thing comes in. Were they as brutal?
Yeah. All I can tell you, having not looked into them as deeply, they were in the style of. I think it's very, very weak from what I know.
Again, a stretch. Anybody could say, "Oh, I've seen those. I've seen them in the paper, and I'm going to do the same thing here." So
this is why I favour the Doctor, because I just think that there's something there that it fits too well. Does that make sense?
Somebody has too easily gotten away with this.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we're not talking about normal murders here either.
no.
We are
The-
talking about real
where are the knives? Where's the blood on the assailant? How's he got away from all of this? How has nobody seen anything?
Another reason why I like the Doctor, because of the carriage with the royal.
Do it in the carriage, dump them out.
Absolutely, because there would have been a hell of a lot of blood. We know that there would have been a hell of a lot of blood left in the room.
You cut the neck, blood goes everywhere. You cut the abdomen and start pulling out organs. Oh, that crime
Ain't
scene.
going to be pretty.
That crime scene of number 5, I forget her name.
Yeah, Mary.
I hope for her sake that was all done after she died.
Again, yep, she died from the cuts to the
Well,
throat.
like I say, I hope he did that first. And
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, Scott, is the answer. It's somebody
I don't think we'll ever know.
It's somebody who's very sick, and didn't just stop. They were stopped, whether by their own death or they left. So, but then we'd hear about it in other countries. If they had just left, we'd hear about it somewhere else, because you don't just stop that kind of thing.
No, exactly. So again, I agree with you. I think they probably died.
Or the
How
cover
they died
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Or a mix between the both. I mean, as I say, the Doctor died pretty much, almost directly after they stopped, and they wouldn't have wanted to let that get out. So he's dead. He can't do it again. Easy cover up, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's got a lot of strength to it, that one.
I think so too. But I mean, ultimately, it's a guessing game. I don't think we're ever going to know. I think it's an interesting part of history. It remains one of England's darkest mysteries. I want to say that I enjoy it, talking about it, but that seems a bit wrong. I don't enjoy it. I find it very interesting. I always have since I was a teenager. Me and my mum have talked about it. We've watched films, documentaries. I've got books about the victims as well. I find it interesting. I just feel for the women, and it's a very dark moment in history.
Yeah, 100% agree. Something that shouldn't have been allowed to happen and should never be allowed to happen, but is an interesting thing to research and find out about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope our viewers have made it through to this, to the end of this, and not thrown up or even shed a tear, because it is upsetting when you look at the people behind those killings. There are a couple of things I want to suggest if you're interested in knowing more. There is a whole host of documentaries, just YouTube, and you'll get lots of different things pop up. Books I've mentioned. There is a TV film from 1988 that stars Michael Caine, that is really, really good. You've got the From Hell film with Johnny Depp. Again, gives you another interesting look. Maybe not the best for history, but interesting nonetheless. There are Ripper tours in London as well that you can go on, so you can pay, and they take you around all the sites, etc. The pubs, the killing, all of it, Bucks Row, all of that, which I have not done. Me and my mum would like to probably do it at some point. And of course, what we're doing here is adding to Ripperologists. That's what the people are called when they look into this. It's so involved that they have their own kind of name. So there's a lot of research still going on, a lot of conspiracy stories, and it's been really cool to sort of delve into it with you, and hopefully the audience that are watching have enjoyed it too.
Yeah. We hope you enjoyed Scott's deep dive and then Scott's informative episode. I know I didn't know anything about it before, so it was very interesting for me. We're glad you joined us. We hope you enjoyed it. From both of us on the Oddcast, good night and stay safe.